Today we review, in my opinion, the most boring movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor.
So before we get into this very exciting review, huge thank you to all of you who have already liked, commented, and subscribed to our channel. Really helps us out.
And if you haven't done any of those things yet, what are you doing? Pause this video, go click subscribe, like this video, throw in a few comments after you've watched a little bit, and share this video if you liked it and want to spread the word.
Please do. Okay, so Thor.
Thor. What about him?
What are your thoughts?
Well, it is probably the most, as I said in our intro, in my opinion, the most boring movie the Marvel Universe has to offer. I think The Dark World is slightly more exciting than this one, even though it might have some more technical flaws to it. At least stuff happens. Nothing happens in this movie. Another thing is, there's nothing glaringly wrong about this movie, which is a good thing, until you think there's nothing good about this movie either.
There's no redeeming qualities.
So then when there's no excitement to it, it's like...
What's even the point? Why am I here?
Exactly. It's like... This, along with Dark World, I've wrote in my notes, are probably the only two movies that I could fall asleep to and not feel bad about it.
Yeah, not feel like you've missed anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, which is unfortunate because I am a Thor fangirl, like, obviously. But
So handsome.
but it just sucks that his intro movie and his second movie, it just aren't great. And there's a couple reasons why I think that, and we will get into that later. So my overall impression, unimpressed. There's a whole lot of not much. A little bit boring, but I did write down, it's a cool sleepover movie. Like,
Why?
it's a movie I would watch when we have a sleepover because it's something that you can easily have commentary. Like, you can be chatting with your friends at the same time and not really miss anything. Like, tune in, tune out kind of
It's like when we were younger, we used to watch National Treasure a lot.
Yeah.
Horrible movies, but we just kept talking throughout them, so
Exactly.
it's kind of nice to have in the background.
It's the kind of movie you can just chat with.
Huh.
So, I mean, there's
Is that a good thing for the movie?
I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. So, do you have a favorite moment
I
in
do.
this movie?
The only moment that stood out of this entire movie, except for maybe the action scene, but this was, I think, a moment that had the right amount of emotion and passion behind it, was when Loki found out he was a frost giant and then had that discussion with his father. I'll get into a little bit more of Loki's character later, but you could... Tom Hiddleston, especially in this movie, he acted very passionately, and you could see that.
Absolutely, yes.
You can see the emotion on his face when he's, delivering those lines, and you can tell that Loki, the character, feels very heartbroken, he's in pain, and that humanizes him.
Yes.
And that is a very, very impactful scene.
Absolutely, and I'm so excited to talk more about Loki because there's so much there to talk about. Something I said, to be honest, I don't really have a favorite moment. Like, all the moments kind of hit a mediocre mark for me. That moment, though, did stand out. That's not what I had written down, but it is a good moment. I would say my favorite moment, which I think is going to end up being your favorite action scene, is the midpoint. So when he fights his way into the shield base that they built around the hammer, and he tries to get his hammer back. It's a good scene in a mediocre movie, which makes it stand out.
Yeah. That leads perfectly into our best action scene, which was the midpoint where Thor tries to go retrieve his hammer during the rainstorm from the shield sort of encampment around the hammer.
The white square.
The white square, yes. It is the only action scene for me that wasn't sloppily edited. Like, a lot of the other scenes, it's very choppy. You can't really tell what's happening. Here, you can, because again, I'll go into the cinematography later, but they don't have a lot of close-up shots in this fight. It's a little bit more pulled back.
Which I think sort of they were trying to tie that into the introduction to Hawkeye's character, where he's kind of overlooking the fight, and I think we're really supposed to be seeing it from his point of view, which was well done.
Yes, that was good. I liked seeing that Thor has some sort of fighting capabilities that don't come from him being Thor, which is good to see. Like the Hawkeye introduction.
It was good.
I like how Coulson kind of was pulling the strings behind the scenes for that whole fight. They could have summoned every single person to immediately surround Thor as soon as they found out where he was.
Yeah, Coulson knew there was something else going on, which proves what an intelligent character he is.
Yes, and then also that ties into later when he just let him go.
Yeah.
Right? If you really believed he was a mercenary, he wouldn't have done that.
Exactly.
But he knew there was something else going on, so he let him go, and I feel like that's why he gave Thor a chance to actually get to the hammer in the first place.
Yeah.
And then also seeing the anguish on Thor's face when he realizes he can't pick up his hammer anymore. That was really good.
Yeah, that's one of the few scenes we get where there's some real emotion from Thor. We get it actually consistently in almost all of his movies. We get more emotion from his brother than we do from him.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah. That's all I really have for the action scene. It's not a great action scene, but it's the best of the movie.
I feel like I need to interject something.
Yeah.
I know I think all of our reviews so far, we've been like bashing these movies.
Yes.
And I promise we are Marvel fans. This will get better. The first movies are not that great.
No. If Phase 1 only has 2 good movies in it,
yeah. Really?
Obviously, they're the 2 movies that we have left to review.
Yeah.
The Avengers and Captain America, the first Avenger.
It gets better from here.
It gets better.
Except for Dark World, it gets better from here.
And Ultron's. Actually, I do like Ultron's. Yeah, except for Dark World.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets a lot better.
I just felt like I had to say that. I'm sorry, Marvel fans. But not really sorry.
Well, I mean, we're fans, but we're also critics, so we're allowed to completely just smash this movie to pieces if it's bad, which it is.
Okay, so moving
Favorite
on
quote.
then. Favorite quote. So there is a lot of quotable lines in this movie, but not impactful ones. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of quotes that you just randomly throw around the house, like another. Like I say that all the time because I don't do that, but I say it all the time just because it's a quotable line. But there's not many. Like I feel like in most of our other reviews, our favorite quotes were something that impacted the character, something that
or drove the movie forward.
Yeah. Like important ones, and there just really wasn't any in this movie. So I mean, I could just say all of my favorite things that Darcy says. Pretty much anything that comes out of her mouth is gold. But I would say as far as impact goes, in kind of the prologue-y scene where there's Odin and his little boys, and he says, both of you were born to be kings, that's the only line that really drives not only this plot, but their whole relationship.
Yep, and it's true.
It actually
Loki
is.
literally is an heir to a throne.
Yeah.
Just
not the throne
Asgard.
he wanted, but yeah.
For me, it was Loki's line at the end when he's about to fall into the wormhole when he says, I could have done it for you, for all of us. And I feel like that wasn't a Loki being tricksy or being manipulative.
No, that was really genuine.
That was him saying, I did all of this for you, Dad.
Yeah.
Can't you see that? Like,
I know.
And when he says for all of us, that includes Thor as well, his mother, the entirety of Asgard.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
Yeah, he wasn't... And there's so much you can say about Loki, but he was not a villain in this movie.
No, he was not.
Just for the sake of, like, revenge or jealousy.
No.
Like, there is so much complexity there.
I wouldn't even say he was a villain. Just Thor is the main character, and Loki is not. They both... I mean, I would actually even say more so Loki wanted to actually do what Thor wasn't able to do, and that was pleasing his father.
Yes.
Loki just didn't have the right sort of, not mindset, but way of doing that.
Yeah, and actually that's why there's a huge difference. Sorry to go on a rabbit trail. That's why there's a difference between the villain and the antagonist. The antagonist is, the opposing force against the hero.
Yeah.
But the villain is like the
bad guy.
Bad guy, right?
Like he's evil.
Yeah. So
Loki isn't.
Yeah, so really in this movie, I don't think we get a villain at all.
There isn't one.
Laufey maybe, but he doesn't have enough impact to actually count. So
no. He's just kind of like a big
actually, I
bad
have a very interesting thought on Laufey, but we might get to that later. So that was long tangent on quotes. Not very many impactful ones. Loki is great. Theme. What did you pull away from this movie with theme?
Worthiness.
Yeah.
Letting go of pride, thought before action, put others first kind of vibes.
Yeah, okay, so what I said is yes, worthiness. But really the main question that's being asked is your worth based on your birthright or on your actions? And Thor has to learn that it's not based on who he is, and this
it's based
actually
on what he does.
And it actually ties in beautifully with the antagonist, which is something you really want to do with your theme. So Loki thinks almost at first that worthiness comes from birthright, and when he finds out that he's not born as Odin's son, he suddenly has to rethink everything, and he's like, okay, so if that doesn't make me worthy, I'd better be worthy some other way. So they really both have the same arc in this movie, which is cool. It's just not unfortunate, because Loki's a great villain in Avengers, but it just turns out that Loki takes it a different way.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting and very true to humankind, I would
Exactly.
say.
Worst moment for me? Oh, sorry. We're not going to worst moment yet. We're covering story next. Naomi, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so, story, as you can assume from a boring movie, all of the plot points were pretty weak. There was not much emotional impact. There was not... I mean, you're supposed to feel emotionally impacted when Thor's banished to Earth, but you don't really. I would say the best point in this movie was the midpoint, also known as the moment of truth. So that's when Thor realizes he can't lift his hammer and he has to switch his whole viewpoint on what makes him worthy. So that was good. Climax was bad. A theme in Marvel, bad climaxes so far.
At least for phase 1.
Yeah. So something, just a note that I came away with about the story is it can be really difficult when you're planning to set up a character for a humbling arc. So, I mean, even Tony has a humbling arc, and Thor, obviously. It's really, really hard to introduce them as something other than just a plain jerk. Like, you don't want your audience to go into the movie or reading a book or whatever you're doing. You don't want them to go into that and be like, oh, this character sucks. Like, they're so mean. I really hate them.
And sorry to interrupt. I call it the Lightning McQueen effect. That guy was a jerk.
And you don't like him, and then you have no reason to root for them. And then when they have their humbling arc, it's like, okay, now they're better. But
I didn't like him in the first place.
If you weren't emotionally invested in the whole thing, then their arc doesn't really matter. And that's what Thor gets in this movie. He sucks at the beginning. I don't get why Jane loves him, which is a whole other point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be really hard.
He's a cocky butthole.
It's really hard when you're trying to set them up for something like that. And so when you don't do it well, you end up with these characters that just suck. Thankfully, Thor gets better. Thankfully, Tony gets better. I mean, his introduction was arguably much better.
It was.
This is what I'm hoping they do with Captain Marvel, is what they did with Tony. I mean, she starts out kind of meh. But I'm hoping she gets a humbling arc, because that could be interesting.
She won't.
But her introduction was not great.
I don't
just
like her.
Thor.
More
on that later.
Yes, in March? Captain Marvel?
I think so.
Somewhere around there.
Be patient. We will get there.
Yeah. Worst moment was the pseudo third act with the battle with the destroyer that Loki sends to Earth to kill Thor.
It's also called a faux climax.
Faux, like the food?
No, faux isn't fake.
Okay. Does that mean that faux is fake food?
Maybe. So it's spelled the same.
Anyways, excuse me. That battle would have been a very good place to introduce us to how formidable the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif are as warriors.
Yeah.
Right? Because they introduce them as Thor's go-to guys for battle.
Yeah.
And we don't see anything that makes them special.
Yeah, really.
Nothing. The destroyer kicks their butts.
Yeah. Yeah,
they
and
lose.
Like, they're
terribly.
supposed to be like these great Asgardian warriors, and we know that Asgardian warriors in general are far superior to humans.
Yeah.
But these don't look
And
like
you
it.
think that a machine designed by the Asgardians should be able to beat. Especially
yes.
the best of the Asgardians in the first place.
Yeah, that whole scene was just disappointing.
And
yes.
it feels extremely low stakes because it's a deserted town. Nothing really exciting happens. Like, buildings blow up, but there's nobody in them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really feel like, ooh, Thor, do something. It's like,
intervene!
he just blew something up. Cool.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not really.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
and
the worst moment for me as well.
So yeah, elaborate on that. Worst moment for you. Keep going.
Yeah, no,
Add on to it.
it was so non-emotionally impactful. You don't care about the characters. You don't care that this guy's blowing up things because, like, they got all the people out. And it's, yeah, like Matthew pointed out, it's this random little town in the middle of nowhere, which, I mean, on the one hand, you could have made that endearing and you could have made us really care about the population, but we don't. And so it's like, okay.
Cool.
And there's a little part of us that kind of knows that this is just like the first stepping stone. Thor still needs to overcome his brother who's sitting on the throne in Asgard right now. So you know this isn't the big fight, and so that's why it really falls flat, and you're like, well, this doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Okay, problems. So many problems. Care to begin?
I'll let you handle the love story, because I think we both had a huge problem with that. So I'll start off with something else first.
Okay.
The cinematography of this movie was crap.
It was so weird. I mean, not as weird as Hulk, let's say that.
I'd say it's weirder.
Oh?
Because when we review our Phase 1 movies, and when we review the entirety of the Infinity Saga, I think I'm going to put Incredible Hulk above Thor.
Interesting.
Even though I'm going to give Thor a better rating, but I'll get into that why later. But the cinematography was very, very bad because they did these weird things. They're called Dutch angles, where you flip the camera on its side and you have all these like 20 to 45 degree angle shots. And that can be cool a couple of times. But almost every single shot in this movie was taken on an angle.
And once you notice, you can't unsee it.
Yes.
It's like every scene, you're like, okay, they're gone crooked again. They've gone crooked again.
So I started sitting down with my head sideways, and I'm like, much better. Now all of the normal shots are Dutch angles, and there's fewer of them, so it looks better. Love story.
Okay, love story. So something that Matthew actually pointed out to me as we're watching the movie is, I think all of the other love interests in Marvel are slow burns, and what I mean by that is they are very slowly set up to be love interests.
Yeah.
Tony knew Pepper for we don't know how long before they actually start
years.
something. Probably years. And they're not even really in a relationship until the end of his second movie. So we see a lot of growth there. Steve and Peggy, again, maybe a couple years. I'm not sure how long
it depends how long when Captain America entered the war.
Yeah,
but
still, they knew each other for his entire time at the training camp, and then there's a gap, and then they meet up again, and it's a tense situation which draws people together. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thor meets Jane over the weekend. And
speaking of love at first sight,
it makes no sense. Like, they don't know each other at all. We don't see any scenes where they're getting to know each other at all,
no,
ever. So
they just sit down and explain sciencey.
Yeah,
stuff.
and okay, maybe that would be cute if I sat down with a guy and learned about science magic-y stuff. But I'm not going to passionately kiss him when he leaves to go to his homeland. It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
It was
especially
just too fast.
When you think about that, Thor's been alive for about 4,000 to 5,000 years already and falls in love with this woman in 2 to 3 days. That is a fraction of 1% of this dude's life. He's probably been, I would have loved him to be with Lady Sif.
Yes.
Because he probably has known her for a couple thousand years.
Yeah,
give or take.
Clearly they've fought together. They've become friends. They've been through all of these things, and like, what can Jane relate to? Like,
What does Jane offer Thor that Sif can't?
Yeah.
Where is the connection point for Thor and Jane? Like, they don't share any sort of common interest besides the fact that she's trying to research stuff that he already knows about.
Yeah, like, it just didn't make sense at all.
No.
It sucked.
And the kiss at the end was terrible. Like, that was probably one of the worst on-screen kisses I've seen in my life.
So, like, there are kisses that's like, oh, that's cute, and then there are kisses that you look away. This is a look away.
Yeah, this is a look away kiss, and it's people could say, oh, it's a passionate kiss, but like, if you've seen The Princess Bride, the kiss at the end is a passionate kiss, but it doesn't make you want to look away. This one does.
Cute.
Yes.
And they've been through so much together, and they knew each other for so like there's.
This. Yeah, we're gonna be doing a love interest ranked episode. This is gonna be at the bottom.
Which is unfortunate because Jane as a character by herself, I like. I do. I like her as a character. I don't think she belonged in this movie.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. On that note,
CGI wasn't great. Especially the horse CGI, it looked very awkward.
It's really weird.
A couple of moments you could really tell they were on a green screen. I didn't like that. Asgard didn't look great. It looked like a prequel city from Star Wars. We all know the prequels suck. That's one of the reasons why.
The whole movie, I think you said this while we were watching, it feels like a prequel Star Wars movie.
There's so much
doesn't
talking.
help that Padme's right there.
Exactly. Anything else that you have?
Yes, okay, so this is not a huge deal, but it's like when you're in a boring movie already, you tend to pick up on these small things, whereas if you're watching a movie you enjoy, you don't notice these like small nitpicky things as much. Yeah. So there's that scene where Loki talks to Thor shortly after the midpoint. So Thor has been captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. Loki talks to him, says, Dad's dead, you can't come home. So sad. Then he goes to try to lift the hammer. Now I kind of get why they did this. Like, Loki thinks he should be worthy at this point. We know he's not. This proves that. But I didn't understand it. I asked Matthew even in the middle of the movie, I was like, so is he invisible right now? Is he illusioning himself as like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent? And so everyone else thinks he's an agent, but we see him as Loki, which never happens. Like either one of those scenarios never happen again. Yeah. So why is it happening now? Why did we have to have that scene?
And there's no explanation, so we're left in the dark. We don't know what's happening.
And they didn't have to do that at all, because later during their fight, we see Thor put the hammer on Loki, and Loki can't lift it. So we know he can't lift the hammer. Yeah. You did not need to show us that earlier. Yeah. It made no sense.
So let's quickly run through the rest of the problems that we have. Back fire, wrap and forth.
Actually, that was all mine.
Oh, that's all yours? Excellent.
Go ahead.
Sloppy editing during fight scenes is very choppy. Didn't like it. And the couple notes at the bottom, it's a snooze fest. It's unfunny and completely and utterly boring wasteland of a movie.
You love this movie so much, don't you?
It is so great.
So great.
Character.
Okay, our favorite character I know is going to be the same.
Loki.
I watched this movie for Darcy and Loki, but mostly for Loki. Loki is so good. I mean, he's so good in all of the movies he shows up in, but he's such a great character, and I'm so excited because I think I get to do 2 villain or victim videos on him.
Do you?
For this one, for the Thor movie, and then for the first Avenger. Or not the first Avengers. The first
Avengers movie? I'm not sure. We'll have to look at our schedule.
Who else is the villain?
I don't think we are doing one for that.
Okay, so at least I get to do one video on him.
One long video.
He is awesome, and I have so much I would love to say right now, but I can't, so I'm gonna try not to say too much. Just very quickly, something I noticed because this movie was so boring, I decided to go into it and really analyze Loki's character, which is so interesting because we can see, looking back from Endgame, we've seen all of his growth and all of his interactions with all these people, and It's good. So looking back, I was able to pick up on all these little things that kind of led him to become who he is and what makes him snap and become the villain that he becomes. So one of the things I really noticed in this movie is everyone treats him really bad.
Yeah, they don't give him the benefit of the doubt ever.
He is like just pushed down so many times in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so his friends kind of brush off his concerns about Thor. Loki is like, Thor wouldn't make a great king, and he's completely right.
Yeah.
And Sif is like, oh, he's just jealous. So there's that. The friends quickly think he's a villain. Like, they see he's on the throne, and oh, that has to be a horrible thing.
Yeah.
The guard didn't take him seriously. He asked the guard to tell Odin when they were gone. Took him a while. Did not take him seriously. Thor and Odin shut him down like a couple times. Yeah. But there's a couple times, and specifically that I'm thinking of, where he's like saying something and they're like, no. Yeah. And just the hurt on his face, you can tell this has been happening for a while, and it sucks. Yeah. And then even his mom, whom we all know he's so close to, like, this is the relationship that is holding him together. This is why Dark World is so emotionally traumatizing for him. Like, all these things. They're close. But his mom knew he was adopted, obviously, and never said anything, and she could have. And that affects him, I think, arguably more than Odin not telling him. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are excellent points. All I really have to add to that is he is a very well-acted character. Tom Hiddleston does a great job portraying Loki on screen. Yeah. You can see every emotion on his face. Super passionate, and you can tell that Hiddleston is loving what he's doing with this character. Yeah. And that makes us feel like, hey, this actor's doing very well. I like him.
Yeah, he must like this character. We should like him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
great.
It sucks when your main character isn't the best character in the movie, because that means your movie isn't that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally speaking, unless it's The Dark Knight where Joker's the best character, but that's still an excellent movie.
But nobody complains.
Yeah. So
Loki is great, and I can't wait to talk more about him.
We forgot to write this down, but what was the point?
The point I took away was like selflessness. You find your worth in being selfless, I think. Something like that.
I would concur. That's all we have. Don't be a selfish butt is the point of this movie.
Don't be Thor!
Don't be Thor. Rating.
I give it a 5. 5 out of 10.
I give it a 5.5 out of 10.
Ooh,
so,
a little bit more generous.
Yeah, a little bit more generous. That
half point was Loki.
It was. So, any final thoughts on wrapping this thing up?
It is worth watching just for the sake of
Loki.
It being for Loki, and for it being like part of the universe. Like,
yes.
You should watch it. Don't expect to be thrilled by it.
Yeah.
I know the first time I watched it, granted I was quite a bit younger when I first watched it, I liked it. I've grown to not like it as much.
Yes.
And mostly because I've seen Thor do better.
For me, again, as I said before, it is extremely boring. It lacks any sort of semblance of emotional stakes. It doesn't have... Except for Loki. It has no moments that stand out as exciting. And I would agree with Naomi in that. I used to like this movie. But it has just become such a thorn in my side.
Don't you say it left. Come on!